My name's Hannah, and if you ask me, my life's pretty standard. Got a decent job, a husband, Mark, who's been my rock since college, and 2 kids who are the usual blend of sweet and trouble. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that normalcy is a fragile thing, especially with a brother like Alex. Alex is 8 years younger than me, the kind of guy who never really grew up. Jobs, girlfriends, you name it, he changes them like he's flipping channels on TV. And yeah, he's got this habit of hitting up me or mom whenever his wallet's feeling too light, which is always. So, there we were, at mom's for our usual Sunday dinner. The house smelled like roast and the kids were running around, when the door slammed open like it's trying to break free. In strolls Alex, with this girl on his arm, looking like she just walked off a beach rather than into a family gathering. Her dress was so short, I swear Mark did a double take, nearly choked on his tea. Family, meet Lisa, Alex announces, all proud like he's won an award. My fiancé. And guess what? We're gonna have a baby. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Mark's coughing his lungs out, mom's frozen with her mouth half open, and I'm just staring, thinking, here we go again. Alex, are you out of your damn mind? I couldn't help myself. You can barely take care of yourself. Lisa, hands on her hips, eyes me like I'm something she stepped in. We're very happy, thank you. And we don't need negativity, right, babe? Alex nods, slinging an arm around her. Yeah, we're doing great. Right, Mom? Mom, bless her, is trying to find her words. Congratulations. But, Alex, have you thought this through? A baby is a big responsibility. Of course, he hasn't, I muttered, earning a glare from both of them. Listen here, Hannah. Alex shot back. I don't need a lecture from you. We're gonna be fine. Right, Lisa? Lisa smirks. Absolutely. And we'll need a bit of help, obviously. Starting with living here for a while. I almost choked on my own spit. Live here? With Mom? Are you kidding? Why not? Lisa snapped. It's not like we have anywhere else to go. And it's not forever, just until Alex finds a new job. And when will that be? I couldn't stop the sarcasm. You planning on hitting the job hunt hard between gaming sessions, Alex? He just shrugged, all casual like. I'll figure it out. I always do. Mom finally spoke up, trying to smooth things over. Well, we'll make do. We always do. Right, Hannah? I looked at her, at the resignation in her eyes, and my heart sank. Yeah, Mom. We always do. Dinner was tense after that. Mark kept giving me these looks, like he was bracing for the storm he knew was coming. And me? I was just trying to wrap my head around the circus my life was about to become. After dinner, with the kids in bed and Mark helping Mom with the dishes, I cornered Alex in the living room. You can't keep doing this, you know. Dumping your problems on Mom on me. It's not fair. Alex, lounging like he owned the place, just shrugged. What do you want me to say, Hannah? Life's tough. I'm doing my best. Your best? I was fuming. Dragging a pregnant girl into this mess? Expecting everyone else to pick up your slack? Hey, Lisa yelled from the kitchen. Watch how you talk about us. I took a deep breath, counting to 10 in my head. Arguing wasn't going to solve anything. Not with Alex. Not now. Just, try to think about someone other than yourself for once, I finally said, more tired than angry. Alex just looked at me, and for a second, I thought I saw a flicker of something like guilt. But then he smiled, that carefree, reckless smile that always spelled trouble. We'll manage, sis. We always do. As I went to help with the dishes, leaving Alex to his illusions, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were all on the brink of something big. And not in a good way. But like Mom said, we'd make do. Because that's what families do, right? Even when they're about to be turned upside down by one of their own. Having Alex and Lisa move in was like inviting a hurricane into your house and hoping it'd just water the plants. From day one, the balance of our family home was thrown off. Mom tried to stay upbeat, but I could see the strain in her eyes. One morning, I dropped by to see Mom, and the scene was chaos. Dishes piled up, laundry forgotten, and Lisa lounging on the couch like she owned the place, scrolling through her phone. Alex was nowhere to be seen, probably asleep or pretending to be. "Morning, Lisa," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Need help with anything?" She barely glanced up. "Oh, no, I'm good. Just resting." "You know, for the baby." "Right. The baby." I looked around at the mess. "And Alex?" She shrugged. "Asleep, maybe?" "I don't keep tabs on him." "Of course not. Why start now?" I sighed and started picking up. Mom came in, her smile a bit too forced. "Hannah, you don't have to do that." "I don't mind, Mom. Can't have you dealing with all this alone." Lisa watched us, not moving an inch. "You're so good to your mom," she said, and I couldn't tell if she was being sarcastic. "Someone's got to be," I muttered, throwing a glance her way. She just smiled, unfazed. Later, I caught Alex in the kitchen, raiding the fridge. "Nice of you to join the living," I snapped. "Your fiancé's made herself right at home." He grabbed a soda, not looking at me. "Yeah, well, she's pregnant. Needs to rest." "And you? What's your excuse?" He leaned against the counter, all casual-like. "I'm looking for work, alright? It's not easy out there." Could have fooled me. "Seems like your full-time job is avoiding responsibility." He rolled his eyes, cracking open his soda. "Why you always gotta be on my case, Hannah?" "I'm handling it." "By handling, you mean letting Mom clean up after you too?" He didn't have an answer to that. Just sipped his soda and shrugged. The final straw came when Lisa announced they wanted a small wedding at the house. "Nothing fancy," she said, laying out plans that sounded anything but. "Just something memorable." I looked at Mom, who was trying to hide her worry. "And how do you plan to pay for this small wedding?" Alex jumped in. "We thought Mom could help, you know, as a gift." I laughed. It was that or scream. "You're joking, right? You want more from her?" Lisa stood up, hands on her hips. "It's not like we're asking for much. Just a little help." "A little help?" I was fuming now. "You've done nothing but take since you got here. Mom's on a fixed income and you're planning a wedding like she's made of money." Alex tried to intervene. "Hannah, come on, it's just..." "No, Alex. Enough is enough. You two need to start taking responsibility for your own lives. Mom's not your personal ATM." Lisa's face went red, and for a moment, I thought she'd yell. But she just scoffed. "Fine. We'll figure it out ourselves." "Yeah," I said. "You do that." Walking out, I told Mom, "Don't let them bully you into paying for anything. It's time they learned the value of money." Mom nodded, but I could see the conflict in her eyes. She wanted to help Alex, but knew it wasn't helping in the long run. That night, Mark and I talked it over. "You can't keep fighting their battles, Hannah," he said, and I knew he was right. But it wasn't just about fighting battles, it was about protecting Mom from being taken advantage of. The next day, I made it clear to Alex and Lisa. "You're adults. It's time to act like it. No more handouts. You want a wedding, a life, you work for it." Their response was a mix of shock and anger, but I stood firm. This was the wake-up call they needed, whether they appreciated it or not. The addition of a new family member should have been a joyous occasion, and in a way, it was. Lisa gave birth to a beautiful boy, a bundle of joy that brought a rare smile to everyone's faces, especially Mom's. She was over the moon, completely taken with her new grandson. But the joy was a double-edged sword. It was Mom, not Alex or Lisa, who ended up doing most of the caring for the little one. Watching her juggle her grandson alongside everything else was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Alex and Lisa's approach to parenting was, let's just say, hands off. While Mom cooed and cuddled the baby, Alex was glued to his computer screen, and Lisa was out more often than not, treating them all like her personal playground. The contrast couldn't have been starker. Life at Mom's had spiraled into a daily soap opera, minus the scripted resolution at the end of each episode. On one of my visits, I caught Mom poring over a pile of receipts that could easily be mistaken for a novel, with expenses that made my eyes water. Designer outfits, jewelry, luxury items that screamed extravagance from miles away. And there was Alex, ensconced in his virtual world, oblivious to the real one crumbling around him, his newborn son a mere background to his gaming adventures. Alex, isn't it about time you hit pause and maybe, I don't know, looked for a job? My attempt at lightheartedness did nothing to pierce his focus. He grunted something unintelligible, not once tearing his gaze from the screen. Working on it, he mumbled, the same old song and dance. And Lisa? This, I gestured to the mountain of receipts, isn't exactly helping. He shrugged, a gesture that conveyed a universe of indifference. I rounded on Mom. How can you just sit by and watch them drain you like this? Mom sighed, a sound so heavy it seemed to carry the weight of the world. It's only money, Hannah. I can't lose my grandson over it. That's when Lisa waltzed in, arms laden with shopping bags, a triumphant grin plastered across her face. Nothing like a little retail therapy, she announced, dropping her spoils on the table as if she'd returned from a successful hunt. Therapy? More like grand larceny. Mom can't keep this up, Lisa. Her eyes narrowed to slits, her voice cold and sharp as ice. Perhaps we should just leave, then. Let's see how often Mom gets to see her grandson after that. The threat hung in the air, a toxic cloud that threatened to choke us all. I looked to Mom for a sign of outrage, but she met my gaze with a resigned shake of her head, a silent plea to drop it. Later, in the sanctuary of the kitchen, I tried again. You can't let them use you like this, Mom. It's not right. She continued her tea ritual, a calming contrast to the storm brewing in my chest. I know, dear. But what choice do I have? That's my grandson. There has to be a line, Mom. They're walking all over you. She handed me a cup of tea, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity one rarely saw. I'll handle it, Hannah. Trust me, I've got this under control. Control? The word tasted bitter. Seems more like they're controlling you. She patted my hand, a gesture meant to soothe. Just trust me, dear. As I left, the image of Alex lost in another world while Lisa admired her latest shiny trinket, not at me. Mom might think she had a handle on things, but from where I stood, it looked like we were all being dragged down by their weight. The trouble started when Mom got sick out of nowhere. One day she was fine, the next, she was rushed to the hospital with what turned out to be a serious condition. I was there in a heartbeat, barely had time to grab my purse before I was out the door. The hospital became my second home, sitting by her bed, holding her hand, and praying she'd pull through. I called Alex, tried to get through to him and Lisa, telling them, Mom's sick, she's in the hospital. You need to come, now. But all I got back were excuses. We're a bit tied up right now, Hannah. You know how it is, Alex would say, or Lisa would chime in with, we've got plans already. Can't just drop everything. Plans. Right. Their social calendar was apparently more important than their sick mother lying in a hospital bed. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't understand how they could just carry on with their lives, partying and living it up, while Mom was fighting for hers. I was running on fumes, between my job, the kids, and now this. But I didn't have the luxury of being tied up or having plans. Mom needed me, so that's where I was. Every day, hoping for some improvement, for her to wake up and tell me everything would be okay. 2 months of this hell, and then, just as sudden as she fell ill, she was gone. I was there, holding her hand, telling her I loved her, that I'd look after everything, not to worry. And where were Alex and Lisa? Out. Living their life without a care in the world, not even bothering to see if Mom, or their son for that matter, needed them. The funeral was a blur of faces, condolences, and the overwhelming feeling of loss. But Lisa, in her barely there black dress, managed to stand out, drawing disapproving looks and whispers from everyone. Alex was just as detached, showing no sign of grief, almost as if he was relieved it was all over. The day after, I went to Mom's house, needing to feel her presence, but I was met with Lisa's sneering face. "Looking for something, Hannah?" she mocked, blocking the doorway. "I need to get some of Mom's things," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, I think you're mistaken. This is our house now. You have no business here," she replied, smirking. Alex came up behind her, a smug look on his face. "Yeah, Hannah, Mom changed her will. Everything's ours now. Maybe you should have spent less time at the hospital and more time securing your inheritance." I was speechless, anger and disbelief swirling inside me. "You can't be serious. Mom wouldn't do that." He shrugged, enjoying every moment of my distress. "Believe what you want. But you're not welcome here." Lisa laughed, enjoying the spectacle. "Guess you should have been nicer to us, huh?" Their cruelty hit me hard, but I wasn't about to show them how much. "We'll see what the notary says about this," I managed to say, my voice cold. "Good luck with that," Alex called out as I walked away, their laughter echoing behind me. A week after the whole funeral drama, we all ended up in the notary's office, a place I never thought I'd be fighting a family battle. The air was thick with tension, you could cut it with a knife. Alex and Lisa were smirking like they already won the lottery, but I had a card up my sleeve they didn't see coming. The notary cleared his throat, and the room went dead silent. "The will Mr. Alex Kramer has been referring to," he began, eyeing my brother, "is not the final will. Your mother made another visit here, with Hannah, to draft the final document." Lisa's face turned a shade I didn't know existed. "What the hell does that mean?" she spat, her voice like venom. "It means," I said, my voice steady, "that Mom knew better. She left the house to me, not you two." The notary nodded. "Indeed. The house goes to Hannah." Alex jumped up, his face red. "That's bullshit. She wouldn't do that." Lisa was on her feet too, screaming insults at me that would make a sailor blush. The notary raised his hand, calling for silence. "There's more. If it's found that there was any pressure applied to change the will, legal actions could be taken." Alex, still fuming, shot back, "I'm her son too. I deserve half of everything." The notary, unfazed, pulled out another document. "Your mother anticipated such a claim. Hence, she divided her money into 2 equal parts. However," he paused, looking directly at Alex, "she deducted from your share all the money you and your wife have received during your marriage." You could hear a pin drop. "How much is left then?" Alex's voice was barely a whisper. $10,000, the notary replied. Lisa's scream could probably be heard a mile away. 10,000? That's it? I couldn't help but feel a mix of sadness and relief. Mom had seen through their greed. "Seems like Mom knew what she was doing," I said, more to myself than anyone else. Alex and Lisa were in shock, their dreams of easy money shattered in an instant. The notary suggested they leave before things got uglier, and they did, but not before throwing a few more choice words my way. After the showdown at the notary, things escalated pretty quick. Alex and his wife, Lisa, were set on clinging to Mom's house like they owned the place. It was a mess, a proper circus show, until it got so heated that I had no choice but to call the cops. Never thought I'd see the day where I'd have to drag police into family drama, but there we were. When they finally left, under the watchful eyes of the police, the air in the house felt different, heavier somehow. Mark and I started the grim task of taking inventory, noting the gaps where things used to be. It was clear as day, they'd been selling off Mom's things. My heart sank. How could they? I was livid, ready to drag them through the courts. I can't believe this, Mark. They've stolen from us, from Mom. We should sue them for everything they've got left. Mark, ever the voice of reason, put a hand on my shoulder. Hannah, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But think about it. Maybe, just maybe, they'll use that money for something good. For the kid. His words hit me harder than I expected. It was a slim hope, clinging to the idea that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally start acting like responsible adults for their child's sake. It didn't make what they did right, but it gave me a sliver of hope that maybe the cycle would break with their son. Deep down, I knew Mark was right. Pursuing them legally would just drag us all through more mud, and for what? The chance at a few dollars and more heartache? No, it was time to let go, to move forward and focus on healing, on building something better from the wreckage they left behind. So, I let it go, not for them, but for me, for us. It was time to close this chapter and start anew, with the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd find their way. Months rolled by in silence, a welcome break from the chaos that had enveloped our lives. But peace has a way of being fleeting. Word got to me that Alex and Lisa had sunk further, living in some rundown apartment, scraping by. Alex was jumping from one odd job to the next, and Lisa? She was chasing after rich men, leaving their little boy, my nephew, pretty much on his own. Hearing that, it felt like a punch to the gut. That kid deserved better, so much better than what those two could ever offer him. I started gathering the paperwork, the legal documents needed to strip them of their parental rights. It was a heavy decision, but every fiber of my being told me it was the right one. That boy needed a real family, stability, and I was determined to give it to him. When I finally approached Alex and Lisa with the idea, bracing for a fight, their reaction took me by surprise. They were indifferent. Almost relieved to be rid of the responsibility. "You sure about this, Hannah?" Alex asked, no hint of the brother I once knew in his eyes. "You know, taking on a kid is a lot." I couldn't hide my disgust, my disappointment. "He's your son, Alex. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" Lisa, ever the opportunist, chimed in with a shrug. "If you think you can give him a better life, then why not? We've got our own lives to figure out." Their casual dismissal of their flesh and blood boiled my blood, but I swallowed the anger. This was about him, not them. "Yeah, I'm sure. More than you've ever been about anything. He'll be loved and cared for. That's more than what you've ever offered him." The paperwork was straightforward, their signatures quick and emotionless. As I walked away, documents in hand, it was a bittersweet victory. That little boy was going to have a chance now, a real family with me and Mark. It's been a stretch of quiet months, a silence from Alex and Lisa that spoke volumes. They vanished off the grid, no calls answered, no trace of them at their last known spot. I've toyed with the idea of getting the authorities involved, wondering if a missing poster is the next step. Meanwhile, our home's been filled with a different kind of noise, the joyful chaos of kids and their boundless energy. Our little nephew, now effectively my third child, has settled in as if he's always been here. My kids, bless them, have taken to him like ducks to water, showering him with the kind of love and attention that's both heartwarming and a tad overwhelming. "We're gonna build the biggest fort this living room has ever seen," declares my eldest, rallying the troops with a sparkle in her eyes that could outshine the sun. The little one, barely understanding but eager all the same, claps his hands with glee, a toothy grin plastered across his face. "Fort, fort," he echoes, stumbling over the words, but clear in his enthusiasm. Mark and I, we've moved into Mom's old house, a sprawling place that seemed too vast once, but now feels just right. There's a room for every mood, a space for every laughter, and a corner for every whispered secret. It's become a home in the truest sense, filled with memories we're making fresh each day. "I never thought we'd fill this place up," I muse aloud one evening, watching the kids turn the living room into a labyrinth of cushions and blankets. Mark wraps an arm around me, pulling me close. We always had the space, just needed the right people to fill it. And he's right. This house, once echoing with the past, now thrums with the present and whispers promises of the future. As for Alex and Lisa, their absence is a void, but not one that sucks the life out of us. If anything, it's given us a clarity, a purpose. We've built something solid, something real, out of the wreckage they left behind. We've turned a page, started a new chapter. And in this story, we're all exactly where we're meant to be.